Hi folks, this is Steve the Cardboard Cultist bringing you an Eldritch Horror playthrough where I go up against Shudde M'ell from the Cities in Ruin expansion. The Doom track starts at 15. Reckonings are going to be an issue because we're not only losing health and sanity, but with cultists on the board there's potential that we're going to be advancing the Doom track. But our biggest problem is dealing with the disasters deck, and also Rome starts devastated. So I'm using two investigators. The first is Ashcan Pete. He's got well-rounded stats. He starts with his dog Duke, and also as an action we can move along train tracks, which is going to be really helpful for getting him around the board. Our second investigator is Bob Jenkins, the salesman, who's got high influence, and his actions and abilities are going to help us with the acquire assets action. So we're just finishing our setup here, and we're going to draw our first mystery. And that mystery is the Worldrender. And this is one of those epic monster spawns that spawns on the pyramids. Now if we would gain an artifact, we can transfer it in for the Vashviraj chant, which will hopefully help us defeat that monster. So I start things off with an acquire assets action for Bob Jenkins. Meanwhile, Ashcan Pete is heading to the east, and I'm going to try and bring him round to the Himalayas and get this first expedition encounter, and hopefully get the artifact we need to try and defeat the Worldrender. Bob Jenkins is a little bit unlucky with his rolls, but we do manage to get an asset with him, and we're going to head him over to San Francisco to try and close that gate. Meanwhile, Ashcan Pete is on the expedition encounter, and he gets lucky and he gets the expedition, and not only that, we get the artifact we want. So he's going to be heading down now to the pyramids to see if he can take out the Worldrender. We've had our first rumour, which is just next to San Francisco, which is quite lucky. So hopefully Bob Jenkins can get down there after he's closed the gate, which he was just successful in doing. Meanwhile now, we're going to head Ashcan Pete in, and he's going to take on the Worldrender, and we're going to see how we get on. He's rolling a lot of dice, so I'm optimistic that he can get this done. Unfortunately, again, luck's not on our side. We only managed to put 1 damage on the creature, and Ashcan Pete takes a lot in return. Thankfully, we've got Bob Jenkins dealing with that rumour now, so that's not too much of a problem, but we have spawned another rumour, and this rumour has to be dealt with. It's one of the rumours that if we don't complete, we lose the game. Ashcan Pete, meanwhile, he's looking very rough. I know that I can take that monster out, but it's probably going to be at the cost of his life. But I'm just going to keep going because we need to get these mysteries done, and we need to keep ticking along. So he manages finally to kill the creature, but unfortunately it was at the cost of his own life. So now we're going to bring in our third investigator, Rita Young, the athlete. She starts in Shanghai. She's got good, well-rounded stats, although she's got really poor influence, which might be a problem later in the game. So despite that setback, things aren't looking too bad. The Doom track's still well under control. We've managed to close a gate, complete a rumour, and now we've got a new investigator who can hopefully move up to Istanbul and interact with Ashcan Pete and pick up some of his items. Unfortunately, we have a fairly rough Mythos phase, including drawing disaster, but we do manage to get to the second mystery anyway, and that is disaster relief effort. And for this we are going to have to resolve a devastation encounter, which means going to Rome, which is currently the only city that's devastated, completing a special encounter, and then we're going to try and get some clues onto that mystery and get that solved. So Rita manages to interact with Ashcan Pete and pick up his items, but don't forget about that rumour we've got down the bottom of the board. We've got to send Bob Jenkins down there to get that solved, or we're just going to lose the game. So my plan at this point in the game is to have Bob head down to that rumour and have Rita try and resolve the devastation encounters and get some clues onto this mystery. Unfortunately, she's only got 1 influence, and we have to make an influence -1 check in order to get any clues on this mystery. So right now I'm kind of up against it because I haven't realised that, and my plan is not going to work. We draw another disaster card. Now this could have been a lot worse. All it's done though is thinned out the artifact and expedition deck, so I'm not too worried about that. Things are just starting to get away from us though. The Doom track is slowly moving towards 0, and we could do with a little bit of luck. And maybe this is the opportunity. We draw the card, the end justifies the means, and the event allows us to advance the mystery by 1, but we have got to resolve a disaster. I decided to go ahead and do this because we've got to take a risk, and we've got to try and get that mystery done. The disaster we draw is water spouts. So not only do we lose sanity and become delayed if we're on a sea space, but all of the sea tickets in the game are removed, and we can no longer get sea tickets. That's a real problem, as I was hoping to advance Bob up quickly towards Rome. Meanwhile though, he has managed to finally get that rumour done just in the nick of time. So it's around this point that I realise just how much trouble I'm in, and that Rita is not going to be able to advance that mystery. So what I decide to do is try and have them meet at the wilderness space in the east of Africa, and then have Bob move up to Rome and hopefully get that mystery completed. Unfortunately, like most things in this game, things don't go according to plan. When they meet in the wilderness space, we draw another disaster, and it really is a huge problem for us. Both of our investigators are moved to random locations on the board, and it feels like we're just getting further and further away from completing this second mystery. Thankfully, Bob does have an ace up his sleeve. At the end of the Mythos phase, Bob is able to cash in one of his unique assets called For the Greater Good, which allows him to sacrifice himself for the good of all mankind. I'm not going to show you the resolution text on the back of the card, but suffice to say, we do manage to advance that mystery, but it's the cost of Bob Jenkins, and we bring in our fourth investigator, Roland Banks, the Fed. He's got high observation and goodwill. At this point though, we're really up against it. The Doom track is almost at 0, and we've still got to survive another Mythos phase before we can resolve this second mystery and get on to the final mystery. So we managed to do that, and our final mystery is Exploring Gahan. And for this mystery, we need to get down to the heart of Africa and resolve a special encounter there. But we've still got to survive another Mythos phase and get down there, which is going to be a lot of trouble. I don't think we're going to do it before the Doom track reaches 0. So here comes the Mythos phase, and the Mythos phase inevitably brings more disasters, and that Doom track hits 0 and Shudde M'ell awakens. And at this point, the board is simply overrun and we're in all kinds of trouble. The event from the Mythos card forces us to draw and resolve another Mythos card, and now it's just death and destruction across the map. We lose Rita Young, and Roland Banks is alone in the world, and all he can do is watch the destruction unfold around him. At this point, cities are being devastated across the map, and monsters are wreaking havoc in those left standing. Roland Banks does head down to Buenos Aires, but unfortunately that's where he meets his end, being overrun by monsters and securing Shudde M'ell's victory. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this playthrough. Cities of Ruin is a really nice expansion that adds a lot of fun elements, so check it out if you get a chance. But until next time, take care and thanks for watching.